turn this over to Tom.
Thank you, sir. As you already know, the Ohio Revised Code 505.94 has limited our ability to keep transient vendors from the residential areas of Plain Township. So in working with the latest rendition of 505.94, I've come up with 5 main points that legislation will allow us to do. The first one, the trustees may require the registration of all transient vendors. We're already doing that, so that's no change. Regulate the time, place, and manner in which the vendor may sell. Prohibit solicitation where a sign is posted barring solicitation. Establish a reasonable registration fee not to exceed $150. Registration shall be valid for at least 90 days. There's no change there either, that's what we're doing. The first item, again, we're doing that. We're already registering the vendors, so we don't need to change anything there. The second item, regulate time, place, manner in which the vendors may sell. If the vendors are not working at a fixed location, then they're gonna be allowed to work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays, 9 to 4 on Saturdays, and there'll be no solicitation on Sunday or holidays. Going on with item 2, if the vendor is working at a fixed location, there's a few more things that we can do. If they're going to establish a place in a business area, it has to be in a business area. It cannot be in a residential. This is a fixed location. They're going to bring a covered tent out or something. They're going to lay their wares out and display them in a parking lot for another business. And so they won't be able to go into a residential area and pick a vacant lot.
Gotcha.
Instead of
business, okay.
Where applicable, they not violate any township zoning regulations that has to do with signage and all of that. They have to have the business in a business zone. Am I back? Is the same one?
That's the same one, isn't it?
Yeah, here we go. They have to provide us with documentation, a letter from the property owner saying they have a right, not a right, they have the ability to work there, they're allowed to. And they cannot conduct business from that temporary place of business between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Okay, help me out, what does this one mean? I'm confused, because we talked about a business, being in a business with the tent, what is this one?
That's the same thing.
It's just the
All of
same one.
these are for fixed locations.
Okay, these are fixed, okay, these are
Yeah.
all fixed, okay, thank you. Got that. Oh, no, that's the one that blocks them. How big would that be, Tom, if we do use that? About similar to this, or bigger?
I'm thinking, yeah, similar to that.
And it'll be posted on their door?
I'm sorry,
That
that
one
one there will be 5 by 4.
5 by 4, and they would stick it to their door?
And I'm looking at stickers that they could put on their windows,
Okay.
on the inside of the window to show on the other side.
And then help me out, you and I already spoke about this, if an individual though wants to use his own no soliciting, they can use that themselves.
Absolutely.
So either or would work,
Right.
or both.
Yes, the only requirement is that the sign be somewhere near the door.
Near the door.
So when the vendor walks up, they can't miss it.
Okay.
Item 3 also prohibits.
Back up just for a second, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
On item 2, under 3, It says, provide documentation that they have received the property owner's permission to establish a fixed temporary place of business. And then there's a bullet point under that says, no property owner shall give permission for more than one sale on a single property at any one given time. So here's what I'm thinking. Let's say they decide to do something back here, and they are having some big event, and they have 4 or 5 different people that want to set up tents there that are doing each something different. Maybe somebody's selling t-shirts and somebody's selling mugs. Would that prohibit that? Would this wording prohibit that? Am I reading that right?
I'm
It
thinking
says,
Eric would know better,
no
but I'm
property
thinking
owner
it
shall
would.
give permission for more than one sale on a single property at any one given time.
Our resolution says that the stores in that shopping center can have their sales outside.
Okay?
So if they can have a parking lot sale,
Are you thinking more of a community event, like
Yeah,
sometimes
and-
they do,
and-
where they
yeah,
have the
yeah,
touch
that-
trucks and they have
or
the
the
parking lot
Yeah,
parties?
exactly, yeah. And, you know, let's say that somebody says, hey, we want to sell t-shirts that say this. And then somebody else says, we're selling mugs. I mean, I don't know, but
Right.
maybe I'm overreaching.
You might be right.
well,
No,
because
no,
somebody's-
that's a possibility, and they do that.
That would be special events.
And do we have something under special events?
We don't have any resolutions for,
Not resolutions, but is it in the zoning text about special events?
you know.
But the actual store owners could come outside and this would not prohibit them.
No.
But
Okay?
they do get, because they do have parking lot parties with multiple vendors that aren't of the store.
Well, they're gonna have a car cruise in back here, I think in the next month or two, and who's not to say car cruise in?
Yeah.
It doesn't get treated as like a swap, I don't wanna go this extreme, but almost an element of like a swap meet to where you can buy some things, and it's,
Can we put in something in there about special events? Can I buy the shopping? I don't know.
This is when they set up at a fixed location.
Yes.
In my view, or the way that I'm conceptualizing this, I'm not sure we care about that portion of it
Okay.
as nearly as much. We don't get complaints about people that are at special events and they're getting accosted by whatever, but we don't get that complaint.
It's a one-time
Yeah,
event.
it's a one-time
It's
deal.
not like somebody's setting up business
and you're.
Right.
every Saturday at this
Right.
location.
We get the complaints
Yeah.
from the jagaloons that are going through the neighborhood, knocking on the same door 3 times. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's what I think the focus is, the intent of this is.
I'm okay with that.
And, you know, certainly if the other became a problem, we could address it, but it's not anything that we're gonna direct our resources to enforce, that's for sure.
Or we can eliminate that paragraph.
I think so.
That sentence.
Yeah, oh, I sure think so.
All right,
If they're
sorry.
comfortable with it, yeah.
Okay, we've already covered the no solicitation sign. And let's go back to, there we go. Zoning is gonna, will provide a copy of the registry to the vendor when they come in for a permit. When the permit is all set up, when they receive that permit, they will also receive a copy of the registry that has all the addresses they can't go to. You'll see later on the badge that you've got on the back, it talks about the times that they can, so all of the instructions are on the back as well, the key instructions.
Providing that they even look at that though. they would,
Well, I think in our case, it's whether they look at it or not, they should be.
Right.
And if they do something wrong, we provided it for them.
right.
Yeah, our big thing is, I think, and I think what, Tom, don't let me speak for you, but what I think one of the things Tom is working towards is those groups that present significant issues are those groups like you're talking about. They get a list like this, it goes on the car seat, goes out to the neighborhoods, and he does his rounds, okay? We're gonna weed them out pretty quickly with some fines and some things like that. So that, you know, the great part would be is if, you know, we made it difficult enough that we were not an attractive area to do much of this in. That would be kind of the goal.
If a company comes in with, organization comes in with several vendors at the same time, each one will have to go through their own permit, getting their own permit, their own background check. And the fee will be $75, which is the same fee that we're charging now. The ORC allows us to go up to 150, but that would be up to you.
Why not?
And we're limiting the number of vendors from the same organization to no more than 12. So they can't come in and just
Bombard.
swamp everything. And then we'll go over the background check in a few slides.
Do you have a sense as a board as to where you might want to see that fee for Tom's guidance?
What's the
It's
100?
been 75 historically, we can go as high as 150, and that's per person they would put out on the street.
And there are other townships charging 100 to 150.
I'd go 100 on.
I would agree, that's a good number. It's easy to remember.
That's what they said, so.
Okay.
You like
I
it?
was gonna go 150 to get to as much of it as
Well,
possible.
then-
That's my,
Honestly,
logic.
it's what here's just my input.
is it 100 or 150, depending upon what they're peddling.
Have you ever
This
got
is
the
kind of-
complaint
this is
that,
kind of
that a home
yourself.
has not seen enough people come to it and knock?
No.
Has that ever been an issue of any resident or constituent we've ever had? To me, it makes sense if the statute allows it. 150 it is. You wanna throw 10 people out there, it's gonna cost you $1,500. You wanna canvass neighborhoods? You're gonna have to do it the right way.
Yeah, go for the
Because what they're gonna make on margins gets back in these neighborhoods not having
Yeah.
Of course. I want that.
necessarily, say, the fixed overhead, that's why they're,
Yeah, it's gonna be mostly people from the outside. I know you're concerned that you thought maybe somebody within the township's gonna be doing that type of thing, but we have allowances for that. It's gonna be somebody totally from the outside. I like that.
There's
That-
no
that
Boy
does-
Scouts, Girl Scouts, they're exempt
Yeah,
from
correct.
this. That's who comes down, are people from the outside.
Churches are all
Well,
exempt.
well, do we, the Boy Scouts, you know, churches, will they still wear them?
No.
In other words, well, could we, even though they don't have to do a background, wouldn't it be good if they still wore this? Then,
Because they're usually in their Boy Scout or Girl Scout, or they have
Because it's
something
gonna-
representing
Yeah,
from the
you're, are
school.
you looking at it now from the aspect that at least the townships are aware,
Yeah, so they-
even though we're not paying.
a family
fees, but-
sees this, so they go, okay, this guy must be legit, but then now I really know legit, he's selling, it's a Boy Scout.
I don't think we've ever gotten a phone call about a Boy Scout, Girl Scout school.
Because what's gonna happen, you're gonna get this unidentified person, first of all, knocking at your door. The person's not gonna see this thing on. And then they're gonna, before they even ask them who they are, they may call the sheriff. Now the sheriff shows up, and then here it's didn't need to show up, because here we find out it's a church or a Boy Scout. Now, if they at least see this, it's not gonna make them panic, because I can tell you, if I don't see this on a person right away, I might be one of those guys that might call, I didn't even ask them what they're
I
gonna
can
sell.
almost promise you wouldn't, because if you're talking about a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout, you're talking about a 12-year-old boy or girl at your door.
Same
You're
with
not
the
calling the
schools.
cops on
Same
them.
with the schools.
And when the band comes around, they got their uniforms on.
They should,
You know, they should, and sometimes they don't, but they're still kids.
yeah.
What,
That
you know,
should
more
be
concerning and more calls that we get are there's this guy in my neighborhood, he says he's
Yeah.
this, I'm not sure he is, and he's selling magazines.
I just thought
But
that they would
I will
automatically,
say to
this
the
would be
point of
their
the school,
automatically.
I will say
It's
the
a
point
lot
whether it's.
more work to issue
It-
that to everybody,
Just to have one
especially
on.
if you have a dozen or 24
Mhm.
I
kids
will-
coming in.
I will say to the point though, and I don't care if it's Boy Scout, Girl Scout, school students, the timetables should apply, because I'm gonna tell you, and this is from firsthand experience on multiple occasions at my current home or even over in Saratoga Hill, 7:30, 9 o'clock at night, I've
Right.
been knocked.
He
I don't
wa-
care what group it is,
Yeah.
that's not
He's regulating
acceptable.
time now.
The group, the exempt
But is it
groups,
just specific to these?
the exempt groups have to.
Oh, I see,
based on
exempt
the
group,
resolution,
Scott, oh,
The exempt groups have to come in and say, we're gonna be out in there, we're gonna be knocking on doors. At that time, they will be notified of the
what
time.
time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, but I'm going to the point of the non-exempt groups.
Oh, there,
I mean, I'm telling you, I've had, and it's typically been the high school kids or sports, 7:30 to 9
even the
o'clock, and I mean,
schools-
that's
the schools are
ridiculous.
supposed to come by, the way the resolution is written. If you're part of that group at all,
Yeah.
you have to
Baseball,
come in and check
softball
in.
type of groups.
Soccer,
And
I'm
let us
Soccer.
know.
and buy all them coupon things.
Yeah.
Well, that would be,
Those
you
are
know,
actually
it'd be a
good.
good thing to let the schools know, have them wear their soccer or their, and have an identified outfit on, that makes it a lot
Usually,
easier.
but not
And I
always.
can tell you, if I see that person coming in a Boy Scout or school, then I'm okay here, I'll contribute.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the registration fee nailed down.
We said, so
Again,
we're
that-
going 150.
We'll go, yeah, I think that's good.
yeah, 150.
Why not nail it?
The vendor's permit is good for 90 days, that's what it's always been, and they can renew one time in a 12-month period.
We have to do a background check again or not?
For the renewal, no.
No?
That, I guess that would depend on the time. If they come right back in for a renewal.
Gotcha.
Um,
I like this.
The no-knock registry,
That's all you think, say.
the township will establish a no-knock registry. Will start as soon as the residents begin to call in or email, we will start putting their names into that registry. My question to you is, do we allow it through email or phone calls, or do we do it in person and check IDs? If anybody could call in and say, put me on, take me off. Or email even.
I almost think you almost have to do it in person, and I realize that can be a pain for people, but
If it's that important
if
to
it's, exactly, if it's not that difficult a thing to come down to the zoning office, fill out a brief form, and prove you are who you say you are, in order to get that, in my opinion. I think that takes some headache off of our
Yeah.
zoning department from a logistical standpoint,
Yes.
and that way they don't have to guess.
And if they do come in, they can show us some ID, even a letter, a bill, that says they live at that address. And we can go from there. Then if they wanna go off, they can reverse that, come back down and sign off. The no-knock registry is also good for businesses. It's for everybody. When the transient vendor receives their permit, they will also receive that no-knock list, as I said earlier. So they'll be reminded at that time, again, that they can't go to those places. The penalties are gonna be first violation $100, second subsequent violations $250. If you're agreeable to that. township's going up to $300 for a third, 1, 2, and $300 for first, second, third, and subsequent.
I think as a starting point is good. I mean, if for some reason we see an exception where they really don't care about violating and it's fourth, fifth, sixth, well then, I mean, just hammering the living snot out of it, because clearly there's no respect for the rules and the wishes. So
No,
I think as a starting point, it's more than fair and reasonable.
Can we get fold on this though? Let's say I go out, I'm not with the Boy Scout, I'm not with the church, I'm not with any of those. I didn't go get my background check, but when I knock at the door and they look at me and say, are you with the church? Oh yeah, I'm with one of the churches and I'm selling this magazine, when I'm really not with any of them. We
I
could
guess
fold.
Well, part of it's the reporting process, right? I mean, we're only as good as the information we get. And so, in terms of, if they're pulling that, somebody's gonna be on to them and call us.
Oh,
So,
you can't get fold on it, 'cause,
yeah.
you know, that's why I was saying, I know Tom said no to this, but I'm saying everyone word, because you don't know who that is when you first come to the door. It either is a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout or whatever, but they may be out of uniform, number one. And then, number two, you gotta decide if it isn't any of those, and they don't have this badge, then immediately you call the sheriff. Or you call the sheriff no matter what, who's at your door, and let the sheriff make that determination.
You said Tom said no.
Well, he said that this would be
It would
difficult.
be, it would be,
To give it
Right,
to
good.
every person, in other words, I'd like to see the scouts, the church, everybody wear this, so
Oh, I
now
see
I'm
what you're
safe.
saying.
Wait a minute, you came, you must be somewhat legit, A, you either got a background check, now you're wearing this, or B, you have to be with someone affiliated, because you wouldn't have got this unless you were someone somewhat important, really. That's why, if you don't have this, then you have to call the sheriff. You should.
Yeah, I
And
see
then
what
that's,
you're saying.
and then you gotta catch that person who said, well, yeah, I'm with the church, but you really aren't. But you got this thing on, you gotta be somewhat legit.
Well, I
And
had a
then
guy come to my
anybody-
house with that thing on, and he didn't know what house he was at. And when he started asking a bunch of questions, I said, well, let me see your permit. And he took one of those out.
And he wasn't-
And I was at Sandalford at the time in Plain
Yeah.
Township, and it was from the city of Massillon 7 years ago.
Oh, God.
So, I mean, you know, I can put a piece of plastic around my neck and say
Yeah.
that I'm with whoever.
But well, this said, he has an expiration date on it.
I
So
made that
this-
large. I made it large so
Right.
they can see.
I'm just throwing it out there, because none of this might not even happen, but
No, that's up to you guys.
you said you have to have a ton of these.
We're gonna have to, we're purchasing the,
Lanyards.
all the lanyards and everything.
To say the
Yeah.
frequency and the, I mean, you
And
could
you're
get,
gonna get back.
You
You know what I mean?
You
It's
know
gonna
what?
be a
It's
recurring
gonna be one of those,
expense.
you don't feel right, call the sheriff, the sheriff,
That's it.
let him deal it.
That's
If
it.
it's with the church or whatever, they'll deal it.
We're putting this tool out there for people to use, and,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be up to them partly to use it.
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
think for
Tom.
the most part,
Okay.
people that are really that worried about all of this are gonna have a
They're
freaking
gonna
sign
sign
on
up.
their
Say no,
door,
sir. Yeah.
and they're gonna say, I don't even want you
That's
coming.
right.
Yeah.
And, you
Well,
know,
well,
That's exactly right.
Whether you've got a permit or not.
Yeah.
it shouldn't be
Yeah,
there.
that'll be.
No, that's right.
This next slide talks about the, if there's a violation, the permit is revoked, and no permit will be reissued for a year.
That's good to know.
Agreeable to that?
I'd say never
Uh,
again.
The second, let's go back one, the second paragraph on that same page, the Plain Township Board of Trustees or the Plain Township Zoning Inspector shall have the authority to take actions to terminate, revoke, or cancel registration and permits and/or initiate penalties as provided in section 3 of this resolution. So what would happen if I'm not involved in it, then all of these would have to come before the board meetings. Before the board at the trustee meetings.
so you could be doing it while we're not meeting, essentially wait until a meeting, or you guys call us individually, run the
Yeah.
situation past us? Because honestly, I don't want to be waiting until a meeting if that's coming up. I'd rather get individual calls explaining the situation than.
Yeah, and if it's something horrendous, Tom has the power to say, you know,
The resolution states that, again, if there is any violation, they lose their permit. So, if the sheriff should cite one of them, then, in the next slide, we'll talk about that.
Do we want that to read inspector, or do we want that to be your?
your title probably.
Director?
Yeah.
Director/inspector.
Director, we can do them both, you can do,
I think we should limit somewhat
I do
who
too.
has the authority. What, I don't.
Everything else comes through you, I just put director. And if
I
you're
think
not
so.
here, then the inspector can always call the board if
Sure.
there's something bad, and it's still the board, you know. But that way, it's solid, consistent,
I
all the way
agree.
across.
We're still under penalties. If someone should get stopped by the sheriff because they got a phone call about a vendor out there, if a citation is warranted, then the sheriff deputy will inform the vendor that they must cease operations immediately, confiscate the Plain Township issued transient vendor identification badge, advise the vendor that they will need to contact Plain Township zoning department prior to resuming any operations. When they come into the office, I'll again go over the resolution, and it states that if they violate it, they lose it. And then a couple miscellaneous items. The first one is the identification badge that you have in front of you. I've made the transient vendor permit portion of it large so that the resident can see it.
I like that.
The permit number will be much easier than that. We'll leave it at maybe 4 numbers.
Yeah, that's nice. I like the expiration dates.
And then have the expiration date bold as well, with the company name that they're with. Then again on the back, there's the hours they can work, and that the badge must be worn while they're out there knocking on the doors. So if you don't do any of those, hey, that's their bad.
Yeah.
They knew it. The background check, we checked with the sheriff's department. I've got a phone number to contact their background people directly. What they will do is they will go to a answering machine. The answering machine will give them instructions on what they're to do and set up an appointment time with them. Once they set up the appointment, they will go in, they'll pay $40 for a BCI, go to the next one. They'll pay $40 for a state BCI background check, an additional $40 for a federal or FBI check. Now, the FBI check is gonna be of any felonies that have been reported by the states or the communities in the state, will go to the FBI and they can report those. There are some warrants that are in the FBI database. I don't know that we necessarily need to go with the FBI as well. And I don't know how long they'll take. Sometimes they take a lot of time. I believe that the state BCI check, background check, would be sufficient, but
We have a rough idea how long that would take.
it looks like it'll be under 2 weeks for the fingerprints are all electronic, so that would be fairly quick. If they have a record, it's just a matter of how big the stack is in Columbus.
constitute a record? I mean, if they had a couple
State-
minor
state.
misdemeanors or
I-
anything like
I-
that, or is it absolutely a pure?
Anything to do with
I would say
burglaries, anything that,
harassment, breaking in.
yeah.
It's a little minor
Anything that-
misdemeanors you can get through.
Speeding tickets or something like that.
Yeah.
But if there's domestic violence, stuff like that, forget it.
Forget it,
That's
yeah.
my opinion, but.
Anything dealing with moral turpitude? You can probably look at.
I think it's a good start, don't you?
I think you've done some real good work here, Tom, really.
And then they say we just can't do it.
So it's-
Where'd that come from?
Next step would be, Tom and I would like to meet at least once before the next meeting, just to
Right.
finalize it. Make sure all our verbiage is right, make sure it's up to code, and present it to you to pass at the next meeting. If, you know, with the input we've gotten from you tonight.
Yeah, tonight, we can.
Any other input you have between now and then,
Right.
shoot our way.
So are we gonna do both of these background checks then?
That's up to you.
That's up to you. I was saying, I think the state one would probably be sufficient, but that, it's your call.
Like Eric said, you can't get past the first one. To go to the second one, you're not gonna get past the first one. Right?
Yeah, it's gonna come out. I mean, there's big stuff to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Most times.
Does it show, how about some background checks, so does it show others, let's say you just moved in from Florida?
No.
Will that,
Generally, a state will not show that.
so I was wondering, will the FBI then come into play that they did not find something in another state?
Yeah, I mean, that's a
So
possibility.
maybe that might be, because you could be in another state, well, you're here, have no background, but,
Yeah,
sure.
but you got some things in Florida or in Arizona or whatever, so maybe we should do the other one.
And that doesn't hurt anything.
Where do you have to go to get that?
Same place.
Oh,
I'd say
The sheriff's
go-
department will send one up
Oh,
to
okay.
Columbus,
Because this way you can,
and one set
Yeah.
of prints out to the FBI.
that's just me.
Do you want both of them?
And then when it's all said and done, those reports have to come back to the zoning department, the original form, and we have to see it in the original. And then they will get they can get the reports back, we'll make copies, they'll get the reports back, and they'll get their permit.
I'd feel more comfortable doing both.
Okay.
If we're we've done due diligence on this
Sure.
whole process.
Yeah,
Why would we wanna open the door for somebody to follow all of this,
Circuit.
knock on the door,
Yeah.
and just like Al said, be from somewhere else and
And a lot of them are from out of
fell
state.
through the cracks? I,
I want to get to the point, what they're gonna make money wise, this is still big, you
well, I gotta believe
Yeah,
also if they're gonna go
it's-
somewhere else, they're gonna need this anyhow, right? I
yeah.
mean, if they're canvassing Stark County, I can't believe we're the only ones.
Yeah, we're not.
That-
Others require
that
it as
would
well.
require that.
Sure.
One last thing before we close, in your packet are applications, there different paperwork in there for your approval. We're gonna be handing those out, so when you get an opportunity, look through them and let me know what you think, or any changes you think might be necessary. But those are the forms we'll be using.
Okay. Maybe I want to get my stamp. What's going on?
Can I be the first?
No, Al wants to be
First.
I asked you the other
I'm
day.
first.
And I'm gonna pull executive privilege for number 2.
So 001, 2, and 3 are gone.
I'll take 4 then.
We'll be your first.
Good work, Tommy.
Email me,
All right, that concludes the work session. We'll start our regular meeting in about 3 minutes.
hey Rob,
Hey,
email.
ready?
Call this meeting to order. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. We have the agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions deletions for the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda will stand. And that takes us to new business,
Unfinished business.
or unfinished business, I'm sorry.
All right, item 1 is a resolution to amend Resolution 19-090 for a seasonal hire. The correct fund should read 01B, 01A.
I was so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Leo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that's the end of unfinished business.
And that takes us to new business.
Boy, new business number 1, we all should be extremely proud of. We received a certificate from the BWC because we had no reportable injuries in the workplace of 2018. So that's given everybody's jobs and fire and road and parks. That's phenomenal, and that speaks a lot to our safety education training. Item number 2 is a resolution that we do yearly. It's to approve and authorize payment to the State of Ohio UST Fund for the 2019 underground storage tank fees in the amount of $2,200, and it's broken up between administration, road, and fire.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Leo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 3, I'm extremely excited about. I know the board will be too. We were audited by the Joint Solid Waste District since they had given us the grant funds of $72,065. Well, that was our expense, I'm sorry, $72,065 was our expense. Our grant amount was $56,388. So as we know, last year we had to do a transfer from the general fund into the yard waste to keep it open. After they did the audit, they are awarding us $15,677 more to make up for that shortfall from last year, which is great. You'll see some townships on there that didn't use their allotted grant amount, but we certainly did. You'll see out of all the townships who received this grant, we certainly expended the most amount of money for yard waste. It's a good thing we're receiving the additional because our yard waste has been just full this spring, so.
I wonder how in the heck the other ones,
Didn't
based on
spend.
the prior calculations
Is that the ones that aren't?
and their tonnage sunk. I mean, that just seems to find.
Yeah,
the
Perry
case of a
Township is
reasonable-
one, they spent almost
And then-
20,000 and got 33,000, and you'll see, there's a couple others in there too, it just is,
Nimishillen.
Nimishillen, same thing. They spent half of what they were allotted, so.
Is that the ones
And
that
that
aren't?
was based on prior
Yeah.
tonnage and the
Correct.
front yard.
The
Yeah.
calculations. Ours makes sense, we had a site close.
Yeah,
We'll probably-
ours was the one that was unpredictable at
Yes.
that point,
Sure.
because we had nothing to
Correct.
measure about.
Yeah,
No?
yeah, but I'm telling you what, it has just been heavily used this spring, so.
So in reality, we're back to even.
We're back to even for last year, see, it
Exactly,
depends on the type
correct.
of seasons
Yes.
we have too, so, but
That's where
we'll
we
take
still
it.
managed to what we've been appropriating.
Yes, right. That would break even for last year, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, historically, more days that is open, the more we're gonna collect.
Oh, yeah,
And unfortunately, that's coming from everywhere.
Yes.
We have no way to control it.
no, and-
So everybody that drives down Easton on their way somewhere
Yeah.
from another community is gonna swing in there and drop something off.
yeah.
Open it more days, they're gonna be more inclined to
Right.
drop it off.
And we've always been open 3 days a week,
Mhm.
and it's in the fall that we do the 7 days, but we're open, I think, a little, the board has chosen
They're closed,
a
no?
better schedule, being open on Saturday and Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, because people are off and that's when they're doing yard work, so. So just excited about
Excellent.
that.
Good.
So
Very
that's
good.
the end of new business.
Thank you. That takes us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf?
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for a resolution to authorize payment of pending warrants in an amount of $446,716.73.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
I moved. Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved. Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the financial report for the month of April. If anyone has any questions, I'm available after the meeting. Fiscal Officer number 5 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
I was so moved on fiscal officer 5.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And Fiscal Officer number 6 is a request for resolution to adopt the updated policy for the interlaser check generation laser print and sign solution software as attached and made part of these minutes.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that concludes the Fiscal Officer report.
Thanks, Don. That takes us to the administrator, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to approve payment to Canton Data Print for the printing, creation, and editing of the 2019 Plain Township Summer Newsletter.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And item number 2 is a resolution to pay the U.S. Postal Service for the same.
I'll move on to administrator number
I'll
2.
second it.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
And if I
Yes.
could thank the board, as my son, who is a senior, let me know today at around 2 o'clock that he had a senior band performance this evening. Thank you for allowing me to leave after my report.
That's quite all right.
Enjoy.
Now, dance to the music. That takes us to fire department, Chief Schallenberg.
Item number 1 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to accept the resignation letter of John Fred Klingeman as a Plain Township career firefighter paramedic effective May 18th of 2019. And to receive retirement items per provision 25, section H of the collective bargaining agreement.
So moved. Second's been moved and seconded, discussion.
His letter's attached there. I know he sent it to you, the Board of Trustees, a little bit ahead of time. Great employee, a lot of good experience we're gonna lose there and energy, so he's been a good person. He's been here almost his whole life with the fire department, volunteer, and then full-time, so appreciate the work he's done and, being part of our team for all those years. So.
Yeah, and that was a nice send-off you guys had for him. That was real nice. He is the last one from what I will call the first generation of
That's correct,
hirings.
yeah.
We had the original 8, and then just shortly after that, we hired 2 more. And he was one of those 2 that we hired after that original, so.
And his energy was overwhelming. He took such pride in his work, and he did have a lot of energy, which was good energy. He really took this job serious, and you could tell he loved what he did. He was a good one.
And he was involved with county hazmat,
Yeah.
and, wasn't just the fire department he was involved with, so.
Yeah.
You're right, that's a tough loss. Number 2,
We need to do roll call.
oh, sorry, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase and payment and installation of concrete at Station 4 to include the east pad and the south sidewalk area per attached quote to Dickerson Concrete Company to be taken from Fund 28A07C.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
All right, that concludes fire department business.
Thanks, Chuck. That takes us to road, Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just have a couple items tonight that are informational. There is a public involvement meeting tonight at Stark State for the Schuylkill-Pittsburgh Orient intersection improvements from 5 to 7. I did send a representative from the road department to get any information that we could need. And I have talked to both Keith Bennett and Dave Torrance on the matter.
That would be one of two roundabouts up there, right?
Yes, yes.
All right.
Item number 2, the board received this letter from the Vice President of Ryan Homes about the traffic and the speed on Butler. The new upgrade that they have done with Butler and the building homes there, and it is, current speed is 45 miles per hour. And so I did call Mr. Doug Jones, and we had a nice conversation, and he just wanted us to know if anything can be done in the future or when. He understood the length of time it takes to get, the speed reduced. But at that same thing, I've talked to Brian Cole, the traffic engineer for the county, and it might be something we can do quicker, being it is gonna be considered an allotment road. So the board might be able to set that speed limit, so we're working together.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean there.
Like we do on the other
Why
allotments.
wouldn't it be an allotment road?
Yeah.
Because the whole thing won't be, it'll just be from that point on, because it's still
Yeah.
rural, the other end,
Right.
the east end. So
Okay, and nothing's posted now, or it's posted
It's
45?
posted at 45.
So, I mean, just for my sake, maybe just keep working on that, pursuing that,
Yeah.
to see what we can do. And,
It could be just filling out.
we have nothing to lose by
It could be
getting it.
filling out a form and the board
Yeah.
did, so.
Okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's it.
All right, that takes us to zoning. Mr. Ferrari.
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 on the agenda is a resolution to declare items A through F as nuisance abatements.
So moved.
Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Our park staff favorite time of the year.
Now we start on this grass, it's pretty crazy.
The levy has.
Yeah, and it just had stopped raining, so that's gonna keep it growing and growing and growing.
That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. That takes us to Tom, thanks again for the presentation on the transient banner. That was well put together, easy to follow. That takes us to parks.
Thank you.
Mr. Steiner.
The one and only item is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to approve the purchase and authorize payment to Terry's Truck and Trailer for 2 sets of plow kits and 2 aluminum dump bed kits from Terry's Truck and Trailer in an amount not to exceed $21,995 from Fund 01B06.
So moved. Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all for parks.
Thank you. Nothing from the law director. That takes us to communications. We have 3. Chuck, you want to read yours or you want me to read it?
I can read it, yep. This came from a resident that we had over off Columbus Road. It says, "Dear Chief Schallenberger, no words can express our heartfelt gratitude to Eric, Jeff, and Chuck." She didn't know I was the chief when I was there. It was kind of funny. She apologized later, but it was funny at the time. But who responded to my call on April 18th. They calmly and expediently handled a difficult situation for my husband, and we appreciate, forever grateful. Residents of Plain Township are so lucky to have you and all your members of your department. And this is actually Eric Haynes. Got a few Erics down, Jeff Pierpont, and then myself. We were extremely busy that day, and we were running all over the place. So we had ambulances meeting people and everything else. So anyway, appreciate the thank you and the support for the fire department.
Okay, thanks. Next one is from the ODOT regarding Stark County Transportation Day agenda on Wednesday, June 5th. Have they done these in the past?
Yes.
I think we're gonna try to send someone.
We're gonna send some, I might be on vacation that week, but I
Okay.
will send somebody from my department.
Yeah, I'll check that date.
Check that out, the board members.
Yeah, I might go to that. That starts at 9. Looks like,
Scott, you can get off work, right?
Yeah, not with the recent change.
yeah, so there's a huge
I
gap.
wouldn't
Why is
set a
it?
good precedent.
Like, looks like Keith Bennett's only gonna talk for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Jeff Dutton's speaking too.
Yeah.
I can see, so.
All right. And number 3 comes from the city of Canton regarding ramp closures at Route 62 based on a resurfacing project.
On Route 62 from I-77 to Maple. So I'm guessing those ramps H and I are Cleveland Avenue Market would be my guess.
I think they're already marked right now. I think they're already posted.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
some.
because I didn't see, I looked at the other day.
The ramp onto 62 up at Fulton is marked to be closed.
Yes,
So,
yeah, they're
so
posted.
it looks like for pretty much 5 days,
Yeah.
the weather permitting, that'll be closed.
As it relates to the
Dale's
paving,
gotta find a new way to do his business.
as it relates to paving, it's looking good. Here in the
Uh,
town.
They're doing
yeah,
a good
that-
job. They're moving along pretty
Doing
good.
that early, having that special meeting to get that moving, I was shocked when I came down Middle Branch and I saw they already had the streets ground.
We got
They
3
were already-
paved
Yeah.
already, so.
Yeah, that's pretty,
Yeah.
they do a nice job. I'm glad we're back to paving instead of microsurface, I can tell you that.
Okay, that takes us to, thanks, Joe. That takes us to public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board at this time, please give your name and address to the fiscal officer. You can, Mr. Tucker, you can stay where you are, you can come up, however you want to do it. It's my neighbor, so he's going to talk about a lot of issues on Spangler that we are all very much aware of.
Okay, my name is Stanley Tucker. I live at 1407 Spangler Road Northeast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I've been talking to John about, me and my wife moved in at our house 21 years ago, and it's a great neighborhood. But as the saying goes, as time goes by, you get a few bad apples, that only a whole bunch. Our problem is there's a house facing down by St. Ammo, closer to my house, that has so many vehicles parked on the road. They have a boxed van that has been sitting there and has not been moved since they lived in the house. The township did check to see if the plates are staying up to date. For some reason, they are keeping the plates up to date. They just recently purchased another truck. There's 3 vehicles that are sitting right at the end of St. Elmo where you come around the bend there. Thankfully, the wife and I have not been in a little accident. She has nearly gotten hit because we have to sit in our driveway and guess if it's clear because we can't see. Visibility is down to 0. And when they have people over, like for a party or for an afternoon or evening, they just park their cars heading east on the west side. Or their cars are parked catty corner. It's like, I don't know if they don't care or if they just think about themselves, but this is an ongoing problem. And John had recently asked me to go talk to the neighbors about what they felt and didn't, he did mention that this is, he's not saying that this will happen, but see what they felt about no parking signs went up on both sides of the street. A good percentage of them said yes, they would sign a petition if it got to that. They are facing the same problems that I'm facing, visibility coming out of their driveway, and I just hope that there's some way we can come up with a solution. Because this is an ongoing problem, And another concern was with a lot of traffic now going down Spangler from 62 where the construction is certain times in the day it's so congested there that if an emergency vehicle were trying to get through, they would not be able to get through because of these cars parked there. And with the St. Elmo, one day I counted 10 deep parked at, pulled up to the stop sign at St. Elmo. Before you knew it, there was 10 cars deep. And so the cars coming west on Spangler, only one car at a time could cross St. Elmo and sit there until the traffic cleared because they couldn't get through. So that makes that side of the road on Spangler congested as well. So it's an ongoing issue, and like I said, I thank God that the wife and I haven't got hit. I almost got rear-ended. I pulled out, and a car just hit his brakes. I didn't see it because, like I said, you have to guess. You can't see. Visibility is down to 0. There's no way we can tell any vehicles are coming around that bend with all the vehicles parked there. So
If we do a no parking, if it constitutes, if the deputy goes out and it constitutes a danger zone, would that be enough? If it looks like a hazard that could cause a risk factor in an accident, is that enough for us, for them not to petition for no parking that we can put up so that we can kind of eliminate going through the no parking? If a deputy would tell us that that's a...
I think the issue is gonna be if it's not posted, if they're allowed to park there even though it's causing a hazard, unless they're violating a law, we wouldn't be able to charge them or have that vehicle towed or anything at all. So there would have to be a violation for us to tell them to move the vehicles or something like that.
What if you went out there and you saw there was a site that probably, they're now in risk? I mean, would that be enough to constitute no parking?
It's still, without us being able to charge them criminally, it's kind of out of our hands.
It's not, because they're on the roadway legally, this issue of obstruction that we've used in the past with like tree branches and that kind of stuff, it is different. If they're permitted to be on the road, they're permitted to be parked on the road.
But if he
Is
pulls
there
out...
parking within 100 foot of the intersection going on? Because that's,
Yeah,
that's clearly not permitted.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Stop signs,
is-
fire hydrants, and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
if I or my wife would be pulling out of our driveway, and because we pulled out because we couldn't see, and we get hit, are we gonna be
So I was
responsible?
gonna say, what if he gets hit because of that now? We say, well, we can't do anything about no parking, but he comes out of the driveway, now he gets hit, because he
Yeah,
can't see.
I can't give
I know.
an advisory opinion
But I
on
mean,
that.
would that be
but-
enough for us to, because we're really careful with these no parking signs. We have done them, and they've come back to bite us, because
Well,
they
they've come
work
back,
and they,
not necessarily us, they've come back to bite the
the
residents.
residents, because now no one can
Because
park
that means
there,
absolutely
no
nothing.
parties, and you're having people throughout, you can't. so
That
it
was some of the
becomes a problem.
concerns, was parties, or if they have someone over for a holiday or whatever, and I understand that, but like I said, until you guys, I don't know, until one of you guys come and experience, I mean, it's just a guess. Every time I pull out of my drive and my wife, I mean, we have to guess if there's a car coming around that bend.
In the immediate sense, is there the ability to, is the size of the vehicle the biggest?
They have one car garage, but there's a box van setting there, like I said, that's been setting there since they moved in, and it's never been driven, it's just setting there.
Yeah.
And when you look from my driveway, coming down the driveway, you can't see the cars, you can't even see hardly the stop sign on the other side of Spangler. And then I noticed one
Because of
day,
the box van?
the box van, and plus with the 3 vehicles that are parked on the road, it even makes it more dangerous, because as I pull down my driveway further to get on this Spangler to leave, you can't see because of them. You're blindsided by both instances.
Are there commercial tags on that truck?
John had, there was no commercial
So it's not a
tags.
commercial vehicle,
No.
technically? I thought there were some like commercial vehicles that they can't.
Oh, we've been over there.
Oh.
Yeah.
We've been over there plenty of times.
And it's well under our size.
Let me just say that both Joe, our sheriff, and Tom have all worked with these problems that we're talking about.
That's
So
got
at one
curb,
point in
right?
time, and you can look at any satellite view that was ever taken, and you're gonna see that truck sitting there, because it's never moved. And it's sitting there in a way that as he or his neighbor between that box truck and Mr. Tucker tries to pull out, they're never gonna see what's coming the other way. And now you have a narrow lane with people that are weaving in and out of all these cars.
Those are the widest roads to begin with.
No, not at all.
Spanish
And
Town
we
Road.
may have had more tows in that block during the winter plowing time than anywhere else in the township.
Did they move it when they had the 2-inch snow ban?
No, we actually towed, there was one or two that was towed this year.
Does the,
So, because they're just so inconsiderate.
Yeah.
Of
that's-
is
where
he
they
aware
car
of it?
park right
Is
in
he-
front of the sign.
box truck guy, is he aware that it's a problem? People have a problem? Does
You,
he know?
you would think, I'm not judging, I'm not the one to judge somebody, but I know this gentleman has been in jail a lot, and there's quite a few times I've seen him with a bracelet on his ankle. And me and my neighbor was talking this morning, and we said, you know, can't they see that they're causing this mayhem? You know, and that, of the neighbors that I talked to about the stop putting no parking signs up, their biggest concern was, you know, because we all know that in an emergency event, a fire, someone having a heart attack, every second counts. And I can guarantee you that if it's that time of day when we have just vehicles going up and down this street, it could be a matter of life and death. They're not going to get through. Now, if those vehicles weren't there, they could get through. But there's not enough room when you have 9 or 10 cars backed up, like I was stating, on St. Elmo at the stop sign because of the construction on 62. There's not enough room to bypass those vehicles.
Has anyone talked, I'm sorry,
I got a question. This year for when we had the snow bans, were we ever called out on that vehicle?
Yes.
Yes. and
Did
they
he
did.
move it or?
Oh, no, it was towed.
No,
Oh, and he got it back. I was
Yeah.
gonna say that, I know it's not winter, but I mean.
Yeah. Oh, no, I saw him loading it on the
So
flatbed.
he's aware that it's a problem, but he doesn't care. Did anyone just say?
anybody talk to him?
But if you talk to him, what if he'd be sensible and
We
say,
gotta answer that. Did anybody talk directly to him?
I haven't, but I know that little girl that got hit last summer on Spangler.
Yeah.
Her mother actually, the lady that lives there was actually on the news stating about this people speeding up and down the street. But to me, there's no concern when they park it. Like I said, they just recently bought, maybe a year and a half ago, this Ford F-150. Nowhere to park it, but they bought it, it's theirs. So they've got a big F-150 sitting there, a big Dodge Durango, and then they have another vehicle sitting in front of that. And plus, they got this boxed van sitting there.
So are you telling me, even if we talk to them, there's not anywhere for these vehicles to go other than where they are?
Well, I saw, about a year ago, they did park the one vehicle in the backyard.
Okay.
That's interesting, when they drove by it, that's his house, isn't it?
That's the house.
Yeah, so when they drove by it, it didn't have the box truck in it.
No, but the box truck is pulled up the ramp where the driveway is. It's sitting right there. Now, there's the vehicles.
who's doing this? Eric? Eric?
I'm trying to,
I don't see the box truck.
hold on a second.
Tommy,
You're gonna have to start sending Tommy up with the drone.
The box
truck
truck,
is there.
the box truck's right in front of the house.
Oh, absolutely,
It's
it's
right
there.
here.
You can see
Never
it.
moved.
Yeah, it's right
It doesn't. The tires are going
It's in
flat
the
on it.
driveway, but it's a short driveway,
Right.
but it's all the way out to the street.
Oh, wait, he's got.
Would they
his
have room to
driveway.
pull it forward?
Oh, can't go
The tires
forward
are flat,
anymore.
is it?
It goes anywhere. it
The
should
tires
go.
are going flat.
The tires
The-
are flat.
The van's
Flat, I
flat.
think we
Oh,
can
yeah.
do something.
Look at that.
It's not
Okay,
operating.
so it's
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're going flat, and
Oh,
the
okay.
tires,
Where is it?
the truck's
Oh,
pulled up
yeah,
as
it's a
far
little
as it
bit.
goes in the
Where's
driveway.
it? His truck?
Almost right at the edge of the street.
That's
Yeah,
the
no
big
tires.
That actually is a pretty good
Tires don't
view
work.
of.
Is it a
so
three-
you
The
see- you see
tires are
there's
going
like
flat.
3 cars right there,
Yeah.
and sometimes there's one between the driveway on the corner and the one that's there now.
Who's the driveway in the corner? Is that you, Mr. Tucker?
No, he's.
My house
One, two,
is, if you go to the
three,
left, up,
4 houses.
4 houses.
To the left of
Three
it.
houses.
Yeah, see the
That's
little
my house.
pad? He's
Yeah.
got the little
That's
pad.
my house right there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got the little
Yours is
pad.
right there.
Is what he's saying.
I
Yeah.
see. So
Yeah,
where's it?
that's my house.
He's got to burn rubber.
So you can see all those cars already parked there in front of that, but then you get cars parked on the other side of the street, and now you're weaving in and out, and the problem now, and he's absolutely correct, so many people now are dodging that traffic on 62, and because of the way they line up, they're not like in the lane lined up, they're S lined up.
Yeah.
So that they're serpentine around all those cars. And he's right, the only people that can move are the ones that are coming down the hill,
That
because you can't get through going the other
Yeah, it
way.
looks very narrow. Maybe that would constitute parking on one side only there, on this, because look at how narrow that is.
He'll just move his cars from one side.
Side of one side's
Let
gonna
me
be-
ask you, don't you
know
ever see a
what I
lot of
mean?
people, they did it over there by the hall from Broad Avenue, and they took this little section here,
Yeah, okay, stop, right now.
and they
See
put
where your
gravel,
pen
they
is?
put gravel there.
Yeah, but, yeah, I know
And they
that,
park
but you
their
see where
cars-
your pen was?
Yeah,
Sometimes there's a car sitting right there as well.
sitting in there.
Yes,
Yep,
Because, you know, you see
Or a truck.
a lot of people over there on Broad Avenue, or, and some of the streets there, they're respectful enough that they went up inside there like this and put gravel there, and they parked their cars in.
well, see, you can see mine has it.
He has that.
Mine has
See
it.
his?
Yeah, I see that. Well,
yeah,
I mean, we can't make anybody do that, but,
no.
you know, I mean, what if we talk, if you talk to this guy, would he might, hey, look, we're having a problem here. Would that be, you know, Vince is good at that. Vince goes up there and says, hey, look, we're having a problem.
Well, if the tires on the truck are in fact flat, we can talk to them.
Like I said, last time I checked, they were going flat. You could just see the air. I don't know if they're completely flat, but you just see the air is not filled.
We'll take a look.
But maybe, maybe it's one side only up there. That looks.
You do one side though,
They're
you're
just,
just gonna go to
He's
the other
moving.
side of the street.
That's
Yeah.
all.
They're
And then
move
you're
over
gonna
there.
have Mr. Tucker's neighbor from across the way saying,
Yeah.
Mr. Tucker, that SOB came in here and moves it all over
Yeah,
here.
we took care of one problem, but we created three.
Right.
This is sad that he hasn't.
It's gonna create another problem if
Yeah.
you
That
just put
takes
them
up
on
his
one
whole
side of the
driveway.
street. That's all it's gonna
It
do.
does.
It's
The
his whole
big
driveway.
issue
He
for
didn't
you
use it.
all
What's he use
as
it for?
homeowners
Does
is
it?
that even if the board decides we're gonna do no parking there, you're gonna get caught up in that. And there are times when I can promise you, I don't know you, but you have people over and you don't have anywhere to put them but the
It's
street.
been a long time since we have, my wife's manager of Sanctuary, and we very seldom are able, if we go to other houses.
Okay, and I mean, but, you know.
But I
we
totally
have
understand what you're
Christmas,
saying.
Yeah.
I totally
That's
understand.
sad that
And
that's.
then we
That's a
get
tough situation.
6, 8 people
He
here
didn't
going, I
use
can't
it.
believe I can't have a party at my
What
house.
good is that?
Because the sheriff's gonna ticket no matter what. He
Yeah.
can't.
If somebody calls and complains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just getting to the point
Sure.
where now it's almost causing me accidents out of my own driveway.
Yeah.
And that's what me and my wife were talking about the other night. Are we gonna be responsible, Lord forbid that happens, if we pull out and someone hits us? Are we gonna be the ones that's gotta pay all the damage and turn it
Right.
into our insurance?
Right, I
Yes, you
understand
would
that.
We got a mess there, it's all.
You
right.
would be,
Yeah.
you would be at the fault.
See, I would.
You have a duty to yield to traffic on the road.
Yep.
That's
So,
a mess.
what do we
How many of
do?
your neighbors, you think, percentage-wise, were in favor of no parking?
Of the no parking, there's, I think, 23 houses between Roland and St. Elmo, and 13 to 14 of them said that they would be willing to go with no parking and be willing to sign a petition, because other neighbors beside me, the neighbors beside me and the neighbors, the house right beside me to the right, 2 houses down to the right, they're having the same issues out of their driveways that we are. And then the people that's on the other side of the street, because of the 3 vehicles being parked there, and because of the traffic being so heavy now with the construction, they try to pull out of their driveway and they can't, because they can't get enough turn to turn and go down Spangler. And it's at a point now where it's getting kind of dangerous for me and my wife to pull out of our own
Yeah.
driveway.
Yeah.
Which really is, to the legal aspect of what our sheriff's deputies pointed out, per law, he'd still be saying.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Quite frankly, that's bullshit
It
when
is.
somebody else is
Yeah.
creating.
Right, that is wrong.
Yeah.
There's not enough room to make it, like the one guy has a driveway back of the garage, he couldn't, I mean, obviously it's financial for this guy, but he couldn't park his cars farther up or anything
I think it's one driveway.
Probably not for them.
I mean,
You know, I mean, I'm thinking that too, maybe, you know, maybe if we just created a no parking zone from the intersection, which at least maybe cleared that out, so that it would make visibility better. I mean, like I said, there's times, I'll pull up to that stop sign.
Is this 100
And
foot thing? These are 60 yard?
Oh, I'm gonna tell you, when there's cars sometimes parked there, they're, like, take your pen and move it right. There's cars parked right in there
See,
sometimes.
that to me would be 100 foot. I
That's-
thought it was 100 foot.
That's what I think.
Any fire raiders or anything?
No.
Nothing, right?
No.
Yeah, if it's down.
Does it have to be 100 foot from intersection?
I think it's 30, that's what I was just looking. It's 30 from any stop sign, yeah, it's 30 feet is all that's required by law.
It is.
And is that from center line or is that from edge of the roadway?
It would be from where the stop sign is.
I got you.
Back to the
Yeah.
So
vehicle.
that's not enough then.
It's a prolongation of the curves.
Yeah, so that would be illegal then because
Yeah.
those yards are at least 60 foot wide.
Correct.
So.
thank you guys. You got two ways to do it. You got voluntarily with this guy, and we can start by seeing if we can talk to him. See how that goes, and then, sure, as far as what we're able to do, it's no parking there.
I think we go the first route.
So what, then, you know, nothing against you guys, but, you know, my wife and I said, because of the situation, that means we might have to look for another house. Because if it's gonna cost us money, which we shouldn't be, you know, charged for if we're pouring out of our driveway and we can't see because of visibility. You know, we love Plain Township, we love the neighborhood. We moved in there 21 years ago, and that's why we moved in. But since then, like I said, you get a few bad apples.
Yeah, stuff, I mean, I think, yeah, certainly they'll take the first step of trying to talk to the gentleman,
Get a deputy.
see where that leads us, and then, you know, the board, and I won't speak for the board, but what I've seen recently is petitions have been effective in getting no parking.
Everybody that said yes to the no parking said they would sign a petition.
Okay. And I suppose maybe that's the next step after we talk, and if it's ineffective, we can certainly circle back around with you and tell you.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention one thing. I know last summer, or the summer before last, the city bus could not get through because there were so many vehicles on both sides. And they actually sat there for 15 minutes. I was at my house and sitting outside when this happened. They sat for 15 minutes and they actually called the supervisor. The supervisor had to have, the Canton City bus supervisor, had to have the truck towed in order for the truck, the bus to get through.
I know I have a
If
question.
they're double parked, I know we ain't making up that street. I mean,
My plows aren't.
Oh, and I'm gonna tell you right now, sometimes it's close to that, where you have, they're parked here and they're parked on the other
we get somebody
side.
with a big mirror or
yeah.
a big truck that with their side by
That's enough to
side.
constitute no parking if the fire truck can't get through it.
Yeah, see, but one, you're on
Yeah,
one
but
side or the other though.
We went through this before, and I can tell you, that was on Linford, when all those tournaments were going on, and people said, we can't get a fire truck down there.
Right.
And you can't just say, we can't get a fire truck down there. Either you make it no parking, or you don't, because they have a legal right to be legally parked.
That's right.
And,
Well,
but the other issue,
Go ahead.
so, let's just say there is no parking on either side. How would that affect delivery people and people who have trailers that do yard work and?
No parking is no parking.
Well, see, that's what I
So they
thought.
can't,
That's,
a landscaper can't park there? Oh,
No.
see, that's where the problem.
Right, and I mean, and that would be, I mean, we're just not gonna sit there and write tickets all day long, because if we get a call, we're gonna,
exactly.
we would have to
You almost
enforce
have to
it.
do one side or the other.
So see, that's one of the things we discussed. I didn't have an answer before. And you told me that some of those people did ask that question. So, you know, they may be uncomfortable with that. I just know I had, obviously, you know, what I asked you to do, and I appreciate you doing that, because a lot of people won't even go to that.
Well, they might
But-
not, there might be a few people that change their mind if
Well,
that's the
and then
case.
I will tell you, I had a resident stop today and say, I don't know that I'm in favor of that for that reason. So, and that just unfolded today.
Yeah, sure.
After you and I talked yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
It's a tough call. Because first of all, too, I'm not taking sides here because I wouldn't want that, but we're gonna create a heck of a hardship for that guy there. Now, he's got, if we put no parking there, where is he putting his cars?
In the lawn.
Well,
He's gotta put them somewhere.
I understand.
2 years ago when we paved, they couldn't park on that street for over a week and a half, and they did. So they had a place to put them, they found a way to put their cars out off the street.
Now, what I understand, I didn't know this, the neighbor said, down there before you go across the bridge, there's those two little houses to the left there on the west side, setting off before you cross the bridge,
Yes.
to the left.
You just can't.
From what I understand, the people that live in that house own that one down there too.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's start with,
Well, we've got a
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
for next steps.
Try it.
Okay,
do you have contact information for Mr. Turner? Okay.
I'll just stop.
Great.
You know, just.
Thank you.
So, once we kind of get a feel for what direction we're gonna go and some of the things we talked about, I'll just stop and wait for you to walk it back and
Okay.
forth and I'll catch you.
Okay,
He walks every day,
Okay.
I
so,
lost 105 pounds.
yeah.
Good for you. Great job.
Really? Good for you.
Contacting him, then, so you guys come up with a.
You know, officer, I want to
I
ask
think
you a
the
question.
plan is to have
When
zoning in the
that
center.
house that we're talking
Exactly.
about,
I
after
guess
that,
we'll start there.
they always
That
Start
park
doesn't-
there. I
If
think
that doesn't work.
on the
then-
left side of the road, the
Talk about
east,
your
the
park.
west side
I
of the
think we need to
road.
address, we
heading
get
we-
complaints,
If
we
they're
don't
going- if
wanna
they're
go to
parked the
this
wrong direction,
extent.
there is a
You
charge.
know, we're
for that.
asking for
Okay, because I'm gonna
voluntary
talk to them.
compliance.
Plus, sometimes when they have
You
company
know,
over,
because here's what it's starting to
They'll
create,
park
and I
their
think
rear
those
end's
are
back against the
legitimate
curb, but their front end's way.
If I didn't come up
Yeah, I
there,
mean, that's
Joe
all
knows
stuff
this
we would
because
come out,
that
and,
has
you know, make
always
sure
been
we're
a
within the
problem
limits of the law, and we could either cite, I mean, normally on those, we go to people, hey, look, you need to move, we don't like to just issue
Right.
tickets. But if it's a constant problem, we can start issuing
just that
tickets.
long.
Okay,
Okay.
I remember. Thank you.
Okay, thank
gentlemen.
you. All right, I'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? All right, that takes us to approval of the minutes for April 23rd, and I will move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And I will move for approval of the May 1st minutes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
No, wait, one of the, wait,
No, you
abstain,
weren't here.
abstain, 'cause
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a special
Yeah, you weren't
abstain.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Okay. We do have a need for an executive session. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:45 PM from this regular meeting of May 14th as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of the consideration of 1A, appointment of a public employee or official, 1B, employment of a public employee or official, and 1F, compensation of a public employee or official.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.